All right, guys.
Yeah, good evening.
Greetings to everyone. Thanks for coming today. We're having our engineer Ebong that will be taking us on this class. It's our 8th session for 2023. I hope you enjoyed your Easter break. Today we'll be learning about AC, air conditioned units. I want to say this is for engineers or for deck. Again, if you have an AC in your house or you have some heat pump in your house, this is good knowledge, at least some foundation knowledge, all right? So I'm happy that we have deck officers here. There is a question already before the class started and saying, why do engineers like to keep the ship very, very cold, like winter weather? So I guess by the end of this class, we'll be able to have answers to that as well. So thanks to Engineer Ebong for this class. We really appreciate it. And over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Cap. Welcome, everyone. As Captain of rightly said, welcome to Deck and Engines COC preparatory class. We are in number 8 session for 2023. And your presenter for today is no other person than my humble self, Engr Ebong Ini-Ebong. So today we are going to talk on refrigeration and air conditioning system. That's heat, ventilation, and air conditioning. That's where we are going to dwell within. And at the end of this lesson, you should be able to recognize the system components, their location and functions. So as Captain have rightly said, it's not for either engine or for deck, or it's not only for engine. As long as you have AC in your house, AC in your car, AC in your office, and AC in the vessel, in one way or the other, this lesson will benefit all of us. Please, I want to believe that I'm audible enough. Can everybody hear me? Am I audible enough? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can hear you.
You're loud and clear.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. I just wanted to double check that we can all hear me. As I rightly said, this is not only for the engine department. As long as you have AC in your house, in your office, in the vessel, in one way, in your car, in one way or the other, you should be able to grab something from today's lesson. And I will try to stick to the contents, being recognizing the parts, the functions, and their locations. So at the end of the class, we should be able to have one or two questions to ask, or in other words, we can also contribute. Because I know a lot of engineers down here already are working on this heat ventilation and air conditioning system. Just for us to remind ourselves and also carry others along. So that will take us to the next slide. What is heat, ventilation, and air conditioning? Sometimes you hear somebody say HVAC. The full meaning of HVAC is heat, ventilation, and air conditioning, meaning that this unit can work in a particular temperature that you want it. If you want heat, you can switch to heat. If you want cool, you can also as well switch to cool, depending on the temperature that you want. So heat, ventilation, and air conditioning is used on the various technologies to control the temperature, humidity, and purity of the air in an enclosed space. Its goal is to provide thermal comfort and acceptable indoor air quality. We all know that a vessel is an enclosed space. The vessel that we are working in is an enclosed space. And you know the material they use in making the vessel. And if you work on board the vessel, without the AC. We know how that place will be. So they have to put these things in place for the comfort of this people working on board and also the machinery. There are four main refrigeration cycle components, which is the compressor, the condenser, the expansion device, and the evaporator, which on the next slide, we should be able to see where these components are being located. So I have here the drawing. I have two drawings here. One is just a line diagram. Then the second one shows us a complete unit on how heat, ventilation, and air conditioning looks like. It might be deeper in some vessels because the one that I'm going to talk about today, the condensing unit section, is going to be a fan cool and not a seawater cool, as it is in some vessels. From this other side that you see the refrigeration circuit, you can see we have the compressor, and the points where you can see where the arrow is pointing out to. From the compressor, we have the oil separator. From the oil separator, we have the condensing unit. From the condensing unit, you have your filter dryer, or you can call it dryer. And after dryer, you have your thermostatic expansion valve. And from the thermostatic expansion valve, you have your evaporator. And then it goes back to the compressor. So the system is a closed loop system. To repeat the cycle. In some vessels, this condenser unit are water cooled. You use water to cool it. Then on this HVAC, what we are having is a condenser fan. If you check out the other drawing, you have your air handling unit. This particular unit, the indoor side is called air handling unit. And inside this air handling unit, you have your blower, you have your filter, you have your evaporator coil, then you have your duct. This duct is where it's being goes to different cabin or different room. And you have your outdoor units here, and this outdoor unit comprises of the condenser coil, the condenser fan, the compressor. Other things are also there, like in still this unit, you have your contactor, you have your capacitor, you have your transformer. Having said that, that will take us to the next slide, which will let us know the function of each part. I want to believe now that we have seen where the parts are being located. And on the next slide, we should be able to know what each part does in this system. On the next slide, we have the compressor. The compressor is the heart of the refrigeration system, just like your heart. What it does is to pump refrigerant. Same way your heart does. What your heart does, pump blood to all over the part of your body that needed blood. So the same thing is what the compressor is doing on the units. The compressor will compress the refrigerant to a high pressure and high temperature and then deliver it to the condensers. So what the compressor does is just to compress the refrigerant with high temperature and high pressure and deliver it to your condensing unit. So on the next slide, we have here the condensing unit. This condensing unit housed the compressor, the condenser fan, the condenser coil itself, and other components as I mentioned earlier, like the capacitor is there, the contactor is there, relays are there, and transformer also is also a step-down transformer. So as I said before, the compressor compresses the refrigerant to a very high temperature and high pressure and deliver it to the condenser. The condenser is where it's being cooled down and further change its state from gaseous to liquid. How does that happen? The condenser cannot achieve that alone. As I said before now, in some vessels, the condensing unit is sea cool. You know, they use heat exchanger, but in this particular one, it uses fan. So for the gas refrigerant to change its state from gaseous to liquid, you cannot achieve that without the help of fan, or depending on the system that you are using, with the help of the seawater. So it enters as gas, and as it's coming out as liquid refrigerant. So here is the fan. The work of the fan is just to help to extract the heat from the condensing unit. So if this fan should fail, you will not be able to achieve, the refrigerator will not be able to change its state from gaseous to liquid. So this fan must be working. So the work of the fan is to help cool the compressed refrigerant in the condensing unit to further help the compressed refrigerant to change its state from gaseous to liquid. On the line diagram, you see that after condenser, we have filter dryer. I try to show it with the one that have a pot, so that we can have a clue of what is inside. For example, if you buy electronic or a new shoe, if you do observe, you see something in sachet form that is inside your shoe or the carton of the electronics. It's not only the same thing that is inside this filter dryer. What that thing does is to fight against moisture. If you should leave your shoe or a shoe in a shop for a couple of months or years without that particular amount, that sachet that contains silica or this silica gel, that shoe will start peeling. Or if it was a handbag, it will start peeling. So that helps to fight against moisture. At the same time, the same thing the filter dryer does in refrigeration system. It helps to fight against moisture and how to separate metal shaving and debris that might be starting from the part or other parts of the air conditioning system. So the work of the filter dryer is to drive moisture and also to separate metal shavings in order to protect your melting device from the expansion valve. Should there be any metal debris that escape this filter dryer, it will at the end probably block your expansion valve or your melting device. And manufacturer recommended that anytime the system is being opened for repairs, the filter should be replaced. That's the manufacturer recommendation. In some cases, they say in every 2 years, this filter dryer should be replaced. But most time we don't do that. We only wait until downtime, then we do that. You know, if this silica gel should give way or this sack bag should give way, this operating device, it will cause restriction on the system. And the fallback will be your compressor. Just like you trying to breathe and somebody hold your nose and your mouth. You cannot breathe, what happens? It will fall back to your heart. So the same thing happening in the system, it will fall back to your heart. Your heart will fail. So this filter dryer is supposed to be replaced anytime the system is open for repairs or in every 2 years. And also, don't forget that if you should carry out any repairs, you need to vacuum the system to 29 to 28 inch of mercury before recharging the system with the refrigerant. The reason for doing that is because air and refrigerant does not mix. If it is mixed, it causes acidic corrosion. So having said that, that will take us to the next slide, which will have to do with the thermostatic expansion valve. Here is the thermostatic expansion valve. Thermostatic expansion valves are devices used to control refrigerant flow in a refrigeration system. They help to facilitate the change of high pressure of liquid refrigerant into low pressure before going to the evaporator. What this simple means is that in this system, we have two sides, the high side and the low side. The high side is from your discharge side of your compressor down to the inlet side of your hemostatic expansion valve, while your low side is from your discharge side of your hemostatic expansion valve back to the suction side of your compressor. We can simply identify this also with the lines. This teeny one, the line you see on your HVAC system that is small, that is the high side. And the other one that is bigger is your suction line, or you call it the low side. So what this symbol does is to regulate the amount of liquid refrigerant. It will cause pressure drop and further regulate the amount of liquid refrigerant that will go into your evaporator. That's just the work of hemostatic expansion valve. And here is your evaporator. You know, from the diagram, we have from your compressor to your condenser to your filter dryer, from your filter dryer to your hemostatic expansion valve, and down to the evaporator. As I said before, the hemostatic expansion valve is to cause pressure drop and further regulate the amount of liquid refrigerant that will go into your evaporator. The evaporator is where to lose the coolness to the environment, to your cabin, to the interior of the car. And of course, this cannot achieve that self. You need to do that with the help of your blower fan. So evaporator is located inside your blower compartment or your air handler. The evaporator coil holds the chill refrigerant that the compressor moves into it. As the air from the blower fan moves over the coil, the cool refrigerant removes the heat from your home air. So what the evaporator does in the system is where the liquid refrigerant, it loses coolness to the environment, to your cabin, and your liquid refrigerant will further change its state from gaseous to liquid. It will enter as from liquid to gaseous rather. It enters your evaporator as liquid refrigerant, then goes out as gaseous. You might ask why? Let's forget that liquid is incompressible. You cannot compress liquid. So on the light slide, we have here, this is how your evaporator looks like. The HVAC blower motor is the heating and cooling system component that sends condition A from the furnace heat pump or air conditioner into the home. Once the system heats or cool the air, the blower motor forces it through the duct system and out the vents in rooms throughout the house. You know, we have a ducting system and we have vents. If you check your cabin or your room, in the central unit, you see those vents. So this blower take in air, your cabin air to run through your evaporator coil and discharge it through the vent. At this point, the coolness on the evaporator will lose its coolness to your cabin and absorb heat. And the liquid refrigerant will further change its state from gaseous to liquid. So I want to believe that I'll be able to touch all the parts and also let us know the function. So I will just summarize once again with this picture here. I said before, you know, this is the outdoor unit. The outdoor unit of this HVAC house with condenser fan, condenser coil, the compressor itself. I will have other electrical components like that is not showing you, like your capacitor, your transformer, your conductor, your relays are also in this outdoor unit. And I said that the work of the compressor is to compress refrigerant to a high temperature and high pressure, and then deliver it to your condenser. Condenser is where it's being cooled down with the help of condenser fan. And the liquid, and further, the compressed refrigerant will further change the state from gaseous to liquid. Then to your filter dryer. Your filter dryer is there to dissolve moisture and also heat the metal shaving and then send it to your thermostatic expansion valve. The thermostatic expansion valve is where the work of the thermostatic expansion valve is to force pressure drop and further regulate the amount of liquid refrigerant that will go into the evaporator. Don't forget the compressor compresses to a very high temperature and high pressure. So at the condensing unit, with the help of fan, depending on your system, the refrigerant will be cooled down at that point. So if you take your discuss the outer side of it, you touch the line, it's either it will be cold or it will be warm. You know. At that point, you have changed the state from gaseous to liquid and go to your filter dryer, and your filter dryer helps to fight the moisture and metal debris in the liquid refrigerant and deliver it to your expansion valve. And your expansion valve is where it will cause pressure drop and further regulate the amount of liquid refrigerant that will go into your evaporator. And your evaporator is where to lose the coolness to your cabin and further changes the state from liquid refrigerant with the help of blower fan. Further changes the state from liquid refrigerant to gaseous because liquid is incompressible and the cycle will repeat itself. So that will be the end from my side. I will leave the floor for question questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, engineer. That was that's a brief one and very insightful. I will be listening to it again on the YouTube channel. You know, for me, I like to repetition. It's always good to repeat and understand it, read it, listen to it again, and all that. So as I was saying last time we attended the class, I'm installing a process of installing a heat pump. So of course, where I reside, yeah, we do use AC in the summer, but we basically want heat, you know, more or less. So which I understand from Engineer Kibukola last time is the same thing, but just in reverse. So yes, I've been studying a little bit about heat pumps and maybe this got my interest, you know, on ACs and all that. So yes, thanks for this. I really do appreciate this. So this is time for contribution questions. Any contribution to this? Anything we missed? Please say it. If you have a more interesting way or more layman way of putting all these things, explain to us. And the question, Engineer Ubon, we did not address our question. The deck officer wants to know why engineers like to keep the ship very cold, like if it's winter. You know, why?
Okay, before I respond to that, let me quickly add something to this. You know, initially I said that we are going to deal with heat, ventilation, and air conditioning, meaning that this particular unit, you can switch, if you need cool, you can switch to cool. If you need heat, you can also switch to heat with the help of your thermostat. You check the thermostat that controls this unit. You have a section that you can select it to heat. When you don't do that, it will cut off the compressor from coming in, rather sending in the voltage to heat up the coil. You have a heater coil inside this handle. So what happens is that now your heater will heat up and your blower fan will just blow the heat to all part of the accommodation. So if you also need cool, you can switch it back to cool. Then on to answer your question, why the engineers always like to keep the vessel cool as if we are in winter, right?
Because as if we are in winter, you know, then the deck officers that is having hot coffee, his coffee will be getting cold quickly on the bridge, you know, or he has to put on jacket. And you guys in the engine room, you're only wearing boiler suit. You know, so he wants to know why.
I don't know. It depends on the vessel. I don't know if this happens in all the vessels or all engineers do that. For me personally, I don't really like it too much cool because it's not health-wise. It's not really cool. Those things was installed for us to have a comfort temperature to be able to work safely. Then we don't need to kill ourselves with it. Why would you put something to a point that you have to, even with the boiler suit that you're using, you need something else to cover it up? We should come to an agreeable temperature that is human friendly and also human friendly, rather than putting something in place as if to 16 degrees Celsius, knowing to you say you cannot even hold. Most time you might say you want to cool the equipment. Too much cool on those board are not really good because you will be sending moisture into those boards. Eventually might got damaged. So there should be a permissible temperature. Like for example, I think a comfort temperature for human beings is between, if I'm not mistaken, 22 degrees to 25 degrees Celsius. You see us tune it down to 16 degrees Celsius and we start covering ourselves. So even better to spend time to kill yourself. So there's no particular reason. It's just the engineer differences. No particular. This is not a standard that okay, we need to put the temperature at so point.
Is when the engineers want to punish the tech officers. Is that what you are saying?
Probably maybe I don't know, but it's not statutory that it has to be at so temperature that human being will be complaining and all those stuff. It's for comfort. Yeah. It was not for us to start complaining about it. They put it for our comfort, knowing too well that the vessel is a container. If you go out of AC, you know how that place is hot. So you don't need to kill yourself with too much AC because health-wise, it's also healthy for us. That's what I can say.
Yes, I agree with you on the vessel being a container. So a long time ago, I took a vessel from Cork in Ireland to Lagos. And I think while we are doing all the pre-checks, it was like more or less a shipyard kind of. Nobody, because it was winter in Cork, it was really cold. They did not test the AC before we departed. So, coming down, by the time we got to Senegal, I called the chief engineer and said, "Oh, chief, the weather is changing now, so please let us have the AC." After about 2 hours, the chief engineer came scratching his head and said, Cap, the AC is not going to work. We did not service it they did not service it, blah, blah, blah. In short, it was a disaster. It was 17-day trip. I think we for the remaining 10 days, it was a complete disaster. So I agree with you. The ships are not, especially depending on your heading as well. So if the winds are not coming in your favor, and we had a hot galley, everything was just very, very uncomfortable. But at the same time, we don't want the extreme whereby it becomes too cold. I understand they talk about cooling down the equipment, especially if you're on the electric, maybe like DP vessels and all vessels that have a lot of electric gadgets on the bridge. But what I also noticed is that when it's too cold, people in their cabins, they close their shutters, and I don't know if I'm right, but I think everything now comes to the bridge. Because the guy on the bridge, the poor guy on the bridge, or the poor lady on the bridge cannot close the shutter. Maybe it needs the captain's instruction. So the bridge becomes very, very cold. So my whole question is this: what is the side effect when other people close their own shutters? How does it affect the system, the AC, HVAC system? Is there okay, so permit my ignorance, So if you're pumping water at a pressure, anything you're doing under pressure, and you close a place, you can have back pressure. So maybe you're pumping cargo or water back pressure. Now, when everybody closed, a lot of people, the crew close their shutters in their rooms because it's too cold. What happens to the AC system?
There will not really be much effect because if you see, if you close your vents, you still feel that the air is still coming out from the vent. And as long as you have other places being open, the thing is that the volume of the air will channel to that particular exit that is open. But if everywhere is closed, the effect will be on the blower mode. Just like as you make mention of using pumping a water, and you close the discharge valve, so you know that the back pressure goes to the pump. Just like that. But in the AC system is good is that even though you close the vent, you still have you can go close to it, you see that you still have escape of air coming out from the vent. And there's no how all the vent will be closed. Just as you said, the brief vent will always be open and all will be channeled down. So there's no much effect except everywhere is closed. It's better not to close, come to let's have an agreement and check the temperature that will be good for we, the human that is working there. You don't need to kill ourselves because of this. The equipment say if you check most time the temperature is going sent to them. It's not even the recommended one. I think there is all equipment have its own storage temperature. Just for us to go through it and know it. We don't need to kill ourselves with AC because we are working on board. Come to a logical conclusion on the set temperature that is benefit to everybody and also to the equipment, rather than letting it for people to close the fan, knowing too well at the end, something should happen to the blower, it still bounce back to the engineers. If they want to survive, so better you come to a conclusion on a temperature that is suitable to everybody, then you regulate it from the thermostat. That's all I can say. Thank you.
No, thanks for that. I've seen some gangster closing. They close the vent, they put rag, they tape it, they just seal it, completely. But well, I think you made a valid point as well. So this is for deck officers. If you open most of the manuals, equipment manuals, it talks about the temperature. So if you feel the temperature is too cold and is below the temperature for the equipment itself, you can point that out to the engineers. You have your thermometer there on the bridge and say, oh, this thing is actually too cold for the recommended temperature by the manufacturer. So that's a valid point. Thanks a lot for that. And does anybody have any other question, please, or any other contribution?
Yes, Captain. Just to add to that before any other question pops up. Let's take for example, if you are in a place that is too cool and you're not comfortable with, and you're with your phone, just take out the phone outside and see what will happen to that phone in this flip of a finger. It will moist immediately. If that half its way down to your board and all this, so what do you think will happen to the phone?
Yeah, I see the point. See what you're saying. Or if we keep the temperature constant, in that example you've given us, we've changed the temperature suddenly. And I've seen whereby the AC went off, for example, and we had to open the doors, and even our logbook was wet, and all that. The moisture was really low. But I think if it's cold and we keep it constant, then I don't know how moisture travels. I don't know. I don't know if it will be that bad. I'm not saying it won't have moist, but this thing happens with a change of temperature most times, right?
That's correct. But to me, it's better we come to agree on a temperature that is suitable for the humans and also the equipment, not to kill ourselves. As I said before now, too much is not good health-wise for we that are working on board.
All right. So there's a question in the chart. It says, what is the cause of leak in the AC vents when the AC vents are closed in the indoor cabin? That you see droplets of waters from the AC vents. Is there any reason for that? Is it just normal condensation that is now coming back, or there's something wrong?
Yeah, most times this happens, most especially if you have influx of opening the doors and closing the door, or probably they don't close the door very well, or if the door are not airtight, you will notice that most times itself the vent also expires. But mostly is when the doors are not properly closed or when you are having inflow of people coming in and going out, you see that.
Okay. Yeah, so the next question that is there, anyway, I think that's for us. Yeah, this is going to be available online. So this is recorded and available online, so we can listen to. I also know that some vessels, especially on the FPS, which they have temperature and they keep vacuum they have a vacuum gap, so that the atmosphere uh, in the FPSO is always positive, you know. So before you get out of the door, you get out of the first door, you get to a vacuum gap, the door behind you must be locked before you open the next one. You understand? I think that's also something that has to do with the HVAC, or is it a separate system?
I don't have experience on that particular one.
Okay, that's not a problem. Well, anyway, thanks a lot for this. We really appreciate this. We hope we have more of the engineering mix. Engineer Kebukola would know when I was actively saying I go to the engineering room a lot. I find it more fascinating, interesting. There's always something that something to learn. So I encourage tech officers, please spend time in the engineering room. No knowledge is too small. No knowledge is a waste. Go and see what they are doing, and all that. And I also encourage the engine officers, come to the bridge, come and actually see the mental work that is there, and all that. So let us work together as one big team, one big family. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody that has been on the call today. And engineer, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure. And have a lovely week ahead. I think there's one more message. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Engineer Kebukola. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, and see you guys some other time. Bye for now.
All right, thank you, Cap, for giving us this platform to educate ourselves.